May 20th. Oh, sorry. I did not count in for Gordon. I fail.
Count in, Gordon.
I got an F for the night, sorry. Going to count in for Gordon. 5, 4, 3, 2. Okay, Canby, we are going to gavel in and call to order the City Council regular meeting for May 20th, 26. If you will please rise for invocation and pledge of allegiance. Thank you, Lord, for this beautiful community that we live in. I want to thank you for the resilience, for everybody who's had to put up with a lot of things going on the last few weeks, and we're finally past a very contentious election season, and I'm glad that's behind us, and we're all still here to still be friends about it. So thank you for that. Please be with us while we make hopefully very good decisions for our community. Be with our first responders, keep them safe, and bring them home to their families tonight. With all of these things, I thank you in your name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, Teresa, we have a roll call, please.
Councilor Patton.
President on the line.
Councilor Maldonado.
Excused.
Okay. Council President Hensley.
Here.
Mayor Hodson.
Here.
Councilor Davis.
Here.
Councilor Stearns. Absent. And Councilor Waterman.
Here.
Okay. We will add Councilor Stearns to the roll if he is able to arrive later. Do we have any new staff introductions? Randy?
We do not tonight.
Okay.
We'll take it off next time.
Okay, fair. Okay, the point of the agenda is for citizen input and public comment on non-agenda items and community announcements. I have one card. Do we have anyone online, Teresa?
No.
Okay. The others for an agenda item. So I have one non-agenda item. Christy Smith. Hi, Christy.
Hello. All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Christy, and I use she, her pronouns. I'm here tonight to read a statement on behalf of Canby Pride. So June is Pride Month, and it is right around the corner. So we wanted to just give a little shout out to Pride Month. That is a time to celebrate the LGBTQ plus community, honor those who came before us, uplift those still finding their voice, and recommit ourselves to building communities where everyone can live openly, safely, and authentically. In small towns especially, pride matters. It matters when a young person sees themselves reflected and welcomed. It matters when families know they're not alone. It matters when neighbors choose compassion over fear, connection over division, and community over silence. Pride is more than a celebration. It is visibility. It is resilience. It is storytelling. It's chosen family. It is the belief that every person deserves dignity, belonging, and the freedom to exist fully as themselves. This June, Canby Pride proudly celebrates our 6th annual Pride at Waite Park, and that'll be on Sunday, June 14th from 12 to 4. Under this year's theme, Many Stories, One Community, we invite our community to come together for an afternoon of joy, connection, music, resources, art, laughter, and celebration. Whether you are LGBTQ, a family member, an ally, a neighbor, or someone simply who believes in building a kinder community, you're welcome. Pride in rural communities can change lives. Sometimes simply showing up sends a powerful message. You belong here. As we celebrate this month, we also recognize the courage it takes for many people to live openly in a world that does not always make space for them. We honor the generations of LGBTQ plus people who fought for visibility and equality. and we continue that work of creating communities where future generations can thrive without fear. May this Pride Month be filled with joy, authenticity, solidarity, and hope. Happy Pride Month from Canby Pride.
Thank you, Christy. Okay, is the public comments. Yes, Ethan, I do have your card, but it is an agenda item, so we'll plug you in there, okay? All right, very good. All right, we're moving to the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda that includes the approval of the April 8th, 2026, specially called City Council and Canby Utility Board joint meeting minutes, and the approval of the limited on-premise commercial OLCC liquor license for the Spud Shop at 23300 South Highway 99E.
Second.
All right, it has been moved by Councilor Davis and seconded by Councilor Waterman to approve the consent agenda that includes the approval of the April 8th, 2026 specially called City Council and Canby Utility Board joint meeting minutes, and the approval of the limited on-premises commercial OLCC liquor license for the Spud Shop at 23300 South Highway 99E. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, that passes 4-0. All right, moving on to appointments. There are none at this time, so that moves us into ordinances and resolutions. The first one is consideration of number 1671 and 1672. This is a slate of second readings. Is there anything new to offer, Randy?
Council President Hensley, not this evening, nothing new to offer for the two ordinances in second reading. The TSP in its entirety is in your packet, and it's quite the document. Congratulations.
Okay, I'll take a
Council
motion.
President Hensley,
Yes, Councilor Patton.
I move to approve the slate of, the calendar of ordinances, including ordinance number 1671, an ordinance authorizing the purchase of bulk fuel from CECO Incorporated under State of Oregon Price Agreement 0498 in an amount not to exceed $200,000 and declaring an emergency. And ordinance number 1672, an ordinance adopting the City of Canby Transportation System Plan on second reading with a roll call vote.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilor Patton and seconded by Councilor Waterman to approve the ordinance 1671, an ordinance authorizing the purchase of bulk fuel from CECO Incorporated under State of Oregon Price Agreement 0498 in the amount not to exceed $200,000 and declaring emergency, and ordinance 1672, an ordinance adopting the City of Canby Transportation System Plan. Roll call vote. Teresa, please.
Councilor Patton?
Aye.
Council President Hensley?
Aye.
Councilor Davis?
Aye.
Councilor Waterman?
Aye.
Okay, that passes 4-0. Next on the agenda is ordinance number 1673, an ordinance authorizing the interim city administrator to execute a contract with Roy Hoke Construction LLC in the amount of $713,812.50 for the 2026 street maintenance project. This is a first reading. It looks like we have Spencer Pollock here from Public Works to present. Hi, Spencer.
Hello. We did not do any paving last year, but this is very typical from our normal paving schedule for each year. This year, Roy Hauk was the successful bidder. It's been a long time that somebody has beaten Eagle Elsner. So excited to have Roy Hauk back in town. They've paved in town before I was here, so they have done good work in the surrounding areas.
Okay. Council, do you have any questions for Spencer? Councilor Davis.
Yeah, Spencer, what's the area that you're going to be doing?
The street that we are paving this year is North Ivy from Territorial to 4th Avenue.
Okay.
We will also be paving 4th Avenue from Holly over to Ivy, as well as 11th Avenue from Holly through Ivy to the cul-de-sac, and then 19th Loop off of Redwood.
Okay, thank you.
That's quite a bit, okay. All right, any other questions? Counselor Waterman? Did you have a question?
No.
Oh, I thought you were pushing your
Well,
button. Okay. And I see a hand up. Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Spencer, we've skipped going to an every year cycle or every other year cycle because of just trying to be able to amass funds to be able to do a larger swath of repaving when we have that chance. This dollar amount seems considerably lower than the last couple of cycles that we've done this. Am I imagining that, or are we really seeing that kind of a decline in the dollars to be able to repave?
No, we actually did get pretty good pricing this year. It came in well below the engineer's estimate for what we were thinking we were going to get. We were late getting this out. Normally we bid this in January. This was just previously bid in, May. So I was expecting the prices to come in a little bit higher personally, which is why I didn't add quite as much on the list. So we did end up getting a little bit better pricing going this year. Also, I did have a slightly smaller list due to some other issues with coordinating, with trying to get some of the other areas that I wanted to get on this list. Part of it was, a lot of it was scattered all over little pockets of town, and so there would have been a lot higher mobilization cost. So next year, I'm hoping to really kind of consolidate where they're going to be going to keep the mobilization down.
Great, thank you.
Counselor Patton?
Spencer, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm under the impression that some of the reason why this is a little lower this time is because some of the street maintenance fee money is going towards Walnut Street. And so that is helping cover some of the cost of that. Is that correct?
That is also some of the normal overlay project for the street maintenance fee projects did go towards Walnut Street, 10th Street, some of those other paving projects. So even though it's not a part of this particular project, the amount of streets that we are paving this year is actually going to be normal to slightly higher.
Thank you.
Counselor Waterman?
Is this the only paving project for
this summer.
this summer? Okay.
Yes, Randy?
Some context, this is great, thank you, Spencer. There are also a lot of new thermoplastic striping and pedestrian crossings in this, right? And crack sealing?
Crack sealing wouldn't be a part of this project.
Okay, we're gonna do have separate monies?
That is separate.
All right.
But the crosswalks are part of it?
The crosswalks that are inside of the scope of work, yes.
I think also, aren't the ADAs being updated as well?
As well as all the ADAs up and down.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Spencer. I'll take a motion if we're ready for that.
Okay. I move to approve ordinance 1673, an ordinance authorizing the interim city administrator to execute a contract with Roy Help Construction LLC in the amount of $713,812.50 for the 2026 street maintenance project to a second reading on June 3rd, 2026.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved by Counselor Waterman, second by Counselor Patton to approve the ordinance authorizing, 1673, authorizing interim city administrator to execute a contract with Roy Hook Construction LLC in the amount of $713,812.50 for the 2026 street maintenance project for a second reading on June 3rd, 2026. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
4-0. Thank you. Next on the agenda is resolution number 1455, and this is a resolution authorizing Mayor Hodson to sign a memorandum of understanding with the Department of Industry and Trade of, I'm going to say this wrong, Bac Ninh Province? Bac Ninh?
Nin.
Nin? Okay, Bach Nin. Okay, Jamie, you can say it better than I can. Tell us what this is about.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So Jamie Stickle, Economic Development Director. As a little bit of background, you will remember since I was just before you on May 4th with the Sister City MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, to establish a sister city relationship between the City of Canby and Bac Giang, Vietnam.
Recording stopped.
Pause.
Recording in progress.
Resume.
Which established a sister city which was built on cultural, trade, commerce, tourism, youth and education opportunities. And so in that process, a delegation from Bac Ninh, Vietnam, which is the province that Bac Giang is part of, it's the Department of Industry and Trade, and they are coming to Canby for a tour of the Dragonberry facility and to hopefully meet with all of you to establish a trade and commerce memorandum of understanding. There are some bullet points that I included in my staff report just to kind of give a brief overview of what the memorandum of understanding that is proposed to be signed next Tuesday would provide. And it's really about friendly cooperation, positive relations, strengthened cooperation in trade, industry, investment, information exchange, and business partnerships, and then supporting supply chain development, technology, transfer, innovation. And a lot of that also goes back to that agro-processing and agriculture, and even in smart agriculture, green agriculture. Both of the parties are agreeing to maintain ongoing communication and information, and it's about friendship and cooperation with a specific, emphasis on trade and commerce. It's not legally binding, so it doesn't create any enforceable rights, but really just says we agree to work together. This came to us through the United Vietnam Alliance, which Amy Nguyen is part of. She is the president. She is also the CEO of Dragonberry Produce. And then her team, both at Dragonberry and the United Vietnam Alliance. And so with that, I will ask if anyone has any questions.
Council, any questions?
Go.
Seeing none, thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
I will take a motion. Councilor Davis.
I move to adopt resolution 1455, authorizing Mayor Hudson to sign a memorandum of understanding with the Department of Industry and Trade of Bac Ninh Province.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilor Davis and seconded by Councilor Waterman to approve resolution number 1455, a resolution authorizing Mayor Hodson to sign the memorandum of understanding with the Department of Industry and Trade of Bac Ninh Province. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4-0. Thank you. Moving right along, we're at resolution number 1456. This is a resolution to authorize the interim city administrator to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with Clackamas County related to the transfer of jurisdiction over a portion of South Ivy Street. Oh, I'm excited. Spencer. Say we're finally getting there.
If you're following along, on page 392 of your packet is a picture or rendering of the street.
Did you say 392?
I have 392,
Yeah,
Council
that's-
President.
This is why, years ago, we went to this instead of paper. Do you remember? You
Paper.
don't. Mr. Mayor remembers. Do you remember when we got a ream of paper and a notebook?
Yeah.
Those were the days, huh? Page 392. Okay, thank you. Spencer.
So this is after many, many years of hard work from all kinds of people as well as yourselves. The last piece that is required for us to officially take ownership of South Ivy Street. The project has been completed, closed out, and then per the ORS for jurisdictions to transfer ownership of the roads, it has to be formally requested. So that's what this resolution would be doing, is you all officially requesting ownership of the road.
Okay.
Congratulations.
I do
I
have,
just saw it across the finish line. It was done by a lot of other people.
yeah, this has been a long time coming, you're right, Spencer. And I do have a question. With this, are we going to see any movement in the things we talked about at traffic safety with the left turn lane and the speed reduction, and that can
I've
happen
already
after
been
this?
in talks with Clackamas County's engineering, traffic engineering. They're on my list to connect with first thing in the morning to tell them that hopefully that this is passed and moving forward.
Okay, guys, you got to do this. These traffic safety commission meetings, they're like after this and have been. All right. That's my plug. Okay, I will take a motion.
Is that due to citizen input as well? The updates?
That comes for the public hearing later. The citizen,
No, for this,
For taking
for the speed limits and.
the speed limit and then the turn signal, protected left turn.
yes, yes.
Okay. All right. So I'd like to make the motion to adopt resolution 1456, a resolution authorizing interim city administrator to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with Clackamas County related to the transfer of jurisdiction over a portion of South Ivy Street.
Second.
It has been moved by Counselor Waterman and seconded by Counselor Davis to approve,
Couple hands, sorry. They just popped up.
okay, to approve the resolution 1456, a resolution authorizing the interim city administrator to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with Clackamas County related to the transfer of jurisdiction over a portion of South Ivy Street. Discussion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So yes, this has been a long time coming, and I can't stress enough the gratitude to Clackamas County and to our Public Works team and staff for making this come together. Part of our long-term goal from a transportation standpoint has been to take over county roads within the Canby city limits so that we have that control and we can dictate how we maintain those roads, which we know will be much better than what the county's been able to do. In regards to, I know there's been some back and forth, and I would just encourage that, yes, if we can look at, and on the approach into Canby from the south side, that we are looking at lowering that speed limit. I think that is an important piece for us to look at. And then also, I wouldn't mind seeing some additional patrol by Canby PD when we make that change or lower that speed limit, just again, notifying the community and just being a presence there that there is that change for the future.
Yeah, that conversation about lowering it has been going on, so that's a good piece about having the educational stops. That's a good idea. Yes, Councilor Patton.
Yeah, so I just want to double check and looking at this map of what will be taking over. I'm assuming this goes right down to essentially the urban growth boundary that goes down by the river, or does it go past the urban growth boundary?
It's 13th to the river, isn't it?
Off the top of my head, I don't remember where the growth boundary is down there, but we're taking ownership primarily to Goods Bridge right at the river.
Are we taking
Okay.
the bridge or just to, okay.
Just to the
Just
bridge.
to the bridge, not the bridge.
Okay, yeah, that'll be, I think I'll look at that a little closer, because knowing the other trouble that we've had with the county requesting stuff that was in the county and not planned to be even be part of the city, I'll be curious as to where they drew that line. And it looks like it leaves ample room here for what will essentially be, I know at one point in time there was planned to be a roundabout down here once all these housing, all these lots develop. And so it looks like, I'm assuming that outside of this hashed line, that is private property, so we won't have to negotiate with the county for any more property when we go to put that in. Is that correct?
Are you referring to the property that would be the southeast corner of 18th?
Yes, I think originally the roundabout that I had saw in previous plans was going to be like where the intersection of Southwest 18th and Ivy Street connected, and that whole thing would be like a large roundabout there. And so I see where it's hashed and it's a very narrow little line there. So I'm assuming that we're not going to have trouble later on if we put that roundabout in with the county.
No, this would be a city's road all the way through. Right now, that is city limits because that property hasn't annexed in. If and when it does, that's when it would also fall under ours.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions on Resolution 1456? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4-0. Thank you, Spencer. Okay, now we're going to move into public hearings. We're going to consider ordinance number 1670. It's an ordinance adopting the comprehensive plan and comprehensive plan maps. But we're going to have a presentation from John Hardy, our planning director, and then we will go into a public hearing.
Good evening, Council President Hensley and council members. I wanted to start out tonight, we'll bring up a PowerPoint here in just a moment to give some context, and I'm hoping to get through these rather quickly tonight. The gist of this is on April 15th, you all heard the comprehensive plan and adopted the comprehensive plan with mapping changes to that, with a note from Randy that Barry Elsner Hammond would be looking at the document and providing recommendations for edits. Staff has subsequently gone through the recommendations from Barry Elsner Hammond, and of the 55 comments that they provided, we agree with 30 of those comments, and I'd like to walk through those with you tonight to go through. And with that in mind, going through those 30 items, those would then end up being put back into the comprehensive plan as edits, and then we would come back to you all on June 3rd for the final reading, for a second reading of this. There's also some minor edits that we did not include in the PowerPoint tonight. There's 28 other minor edits. They're like Scrivener's errors and minor edits. Those are in the table packets that you received. However, they're in that table as well. We felt like those weren't enough of a significant issue to bring forward tonight and take all the time through this hearing process. So we wanted to keep it focused on the 30 items that we were in agreement with legal counsel on. You probably will all have some questions on a few of these, and we want your editorial on each of those as we go through those. I think it'd be easier to go through them one by one. And staff is of the position that whatever you all feel is best on these, there's a few in this packet that you may have a difference of opinion, and we may just end up keeping what we had in there to begin with. So just wanted to start with that framework for our presentation tonight. And I think the main focus just on the legal counsel part of this is that the importance, I think, really on where the lens here is the recommendations are intended to focus on things that don't change the meaning in a significant way on the policies or strategies, provide a better framework for the zoning code implementation, provide more flexibility to achieve implementation, remove approval criteria, and there are some that are kind of approval criteria like in the comp plan as those belong on the zoning code and not the comprehensive plan, and to have, and to make sure that we believe these are consistent with other adopted plans, and that's some of the reasons we didn't agree with some of the changes that the attorneys made, and they may not have been aware of that, but we do have source documents, housing production strategy, economic opportunity analysis, transportation system plan, parks master plan, et cetera, that we intentionally put some of these in place. And so those we did not put forward for changes. We believe those should remain. And so at the end of this discussion, I'm hoping to come away with a final list. We will then come back. You'll have in your packets for June 3rd a final comprehensive plan with all the edits in it. And then that will also include, for your motion tonight, that our requested motion would be for those changes to be made. We'll come back with the completed comprehensive plan, and that will also include the comprehensive plan document itself and maps that were previously reviewed and approved by City Council on April 15. So with that, I'm going to jump into the edits. Start with the first one.
Don, we have, it looks like one sheet of changes in our packet, page 396 on the council thing. I don't know if there's more that.
There's actually, there's
1, 2, and 3.
Well, there's page
397.
396 through 3, oh my.
Yeah.
Still scrolling.
Okay, they've got it. I'm just making sure they
I
have
thought
it.
the PowerPoint was.
396 through
Yeah.
414. We got them all.
I'm going to try to really dial this in because,
Yeah.
again, I know there's
It's
a bit of
7:30.
content here.
Yeah.
For the first one, Randy, did you have a question?
Councilor Patton, did you have a question that's immediate, or do you want to hear the presentation first?
I would like just some clarification as I read through this real quick. So when I'm looking at this, and I just want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly, in the guidance to 3J, and for example, in 1, which is not apparently part of the presentation, it says leave as is. If it says leave as is, then that is where you folks are saying we're not going to go with what Barry Elsner and Hammond are recommending?
That is correct.
Is that correct understanding?
Yes, absolutely, and that's in the table, and so that marries up with the PowerPoint. We just didn't want to go through every single one of them in the table.
That's fine. I just wanted to make sure I understood what those notes were.
Yeah, okay.
So I wasn't wondering what the heck was going on. Thank you.
Good question.
Great
Thank you,
question.
Councilor Patton. Okay, go ahead, Don.
Okay, so starting with the first one, which is citizen involvement, the changes from the original, and it's not, in our opinion, really substantial, but it went from develop and implement practices that create inclusive and welcoming outreach, going where the people are, providing daycare at public meetings, offering live interpretation at meetings, and offering meetings at different times of day and with virtual options when possible. The recommendation is a bit more consolidated, develop and implement practices that promote inclusive and welcoming outreach, such as making efforts to go where the people are, supporting the attendance needs of families with young children, offering live interpretation at meetings, and being aware of the effect of meeting times and virtual options on public attendance. So we didn't see a significant change between those two, but there is some wording changes here that we wanted to make you aware of. And if that is acceptable to you all, I'll move on to the next one. So one, second item is, this is, again, instead of use allowable conditions of approval, the change really would be to take, instead of saying that, use allowable conditions of approval for discretionary applications, it would say consider using tools such as conditions of approval as a means of preventing, minimizing, or mitigating conflicts between land uses such as noise, light pollution, and traffic impediments and impacts. And I think some of this is the, softening that the attorneys are suggesting to provide a range of future options for implementation. If I don't hear any things, okay. Unless you say something, okay.
If it's absolutely urgent, wait, otherwise let's try to hold the questions to the end if we can.
Okay, sounds good. Going to the next one. So these are just word additions, so consider adopting instead of consider scenic values as criteria. Let's consider adopting scenic values as criteria for developing reviews with riparian and wetland areas as regulated by Wetlands and Riparian Preservation, and then adding provisions of Canby Municipal Code. So adding the word adopting and provisions to that section. Okay. Next one, this one is a bit nuanced, but the main thrust here is that no change to the first sentence, enforce Canby Municipal Code for flood-prone and steep slope areas to limit densities and intensities of development in such areas. The change would be to the next section, which would be adopt floodplain regulations consistent with the 2016 FEMA biological opinion, or, this is the addition, or federal law, because that is a bit possibly changing with the current administration. It may not be the 2016 FEMA biological opinion. It may be something else that comes out of the federal government. And so that was the add. And then the last sentence, it remains as it was already written. And says, and it just continues and to include consideration efficient wildlife values with regulated riparian and wetland areas as regulated by Canby Municipal Code. So if you all are okay with that addition, okay. Next one is, this is an ORS, and it was recommended to be removed because it may not cover every circumstance that is related to wetlands. So that ORS has to do with notification processes, but the attorneys believe that was not all inclusive of other things that might end up being enforced here. So I think it would basically is broader with state and federal regulations instead of tying it to ORS 227350. And then the next one is provide protection of wetland resources with a recommendation, and slightly the word structure is changing here toward the end of this paragraph, but it says provide protection of wetland resources and striking and consistent with local wetland inventory once adopted. And it says provide protection of wetland resources as part of land use and development processes through the implementation of development standards of the riparian and wetland overlay regulations for wetlands that will be included in the Canby local wetland inventory. So it's the same thing, but just in a different word structure. Okay. Next one is a replacement for, instead of the top part here, this is on natural resources, is instead of saying prior to approval of as required by ORS 227350 for any development activity which may be near a wetland, the city will record delineation of the boundary of the wetland and to be confirmed by the Department of State Lands. It would end up being replaced with something simpler, adopt development regulations regarding delineation of wetland boundaries in connection with development near wetlands consistent with the Oregon law. So if that one looks okay. Moving on to the next one. This one is regarding cultural resources and adding the language of areas of high likelihood. There is a Goal 5 revision going on in context here that we will be having new legislation dealing with cultural resources, and tribes will have the ability to weigh in on local land use processes and will have input on those, but they are targeted about high likelihood areas and not it's about providing protection to the most significant impacts for cultural resources. So the ad would be, as directed by Oregon state rules and statutes, work with tribal governments and legislative commission on Indian services and the Oregon SHPO to identify areas of high likelihood for archaeological resources and traditional cultural properties and develop policies to avoid and protect these resources so they are not damaged. Okay, good with that. This is, again, another replacement. Instead of, this has to do with septic tanks, but the word changes are instead of allow functional septic systems to remain in use where practical and require properties with failing septic systems within the city to connect to city sewage system, it will say, recommended to say, develop regulations to, where practical and appropriate, allow functional septic systems to remain in use and require properties with failing septic systems within the city to connect to city sewer systems. Okay, no questions there. Next one is, this is, instead of saying require, this is require noise reducing elements, including hours of operation. It would say develop and enforce code provisions relating to noise reducing elements. So the change would be, instead of require, it would say develop and enforce code provisions, which again gets back to the implementation piece that is at the zoning level and not at the comprehensive plan level. And I think that's the main reason for the attorney recommendation. Still would be something of importance, but we would end up developing instead of enforcing. And some of this also is it's part of the, I think there's still some things in our code that do need to be changed and brought up to speed to address these more specifically. There's parts of our code that this, there would still be noise regulation, et cetera, and to the extent it's in our code now, this would go beyond that as a future provision, and I do think there needs to be an update to our noise ordinance, for example, as we continue to do urban growth boundary expansion, especially as we interface with other areas that may have noise sensitivity to them. So any thoughts or questions on that one? Okay.
Not yet.
Next item is the word minimize in the sentence here. On the first sentence would be removed, and the word reduced would be would replace minimize. So it would go from established mitigation projects and policies that reduce losses and repetitive damage from recurring disasters while promoting insurance coverage for severe hazards. And mitigation projects are things like the floodplain ordinance that we will be updating, which will be consistent with federal standards. It's about winter storm and wildlife response plans. So that's what that is. But instead of saying, this is again a recommendation from our council, but instead of saying minimize, it's the word reduce would be in that sentence. The next one is improve hazard identification and risk assessment information to inform and provide recommendations for enhanced resilience in new development, and removing the word decisions and to say in new development, and promote preventative measures for existing development areas and areas vulnerable to natural hazards. Largely that sentence is remaining as it was, even with that word removed, is our opinion. So any thoughts? Okay. Next sentence, or next item is regarding require more than one ingress and egress for evacuation in and adjacent to natural hazard areas, and change that to develop regulations to encourage more than one ingress and egress for evacuations in and adjacent to natural hazard areas. And I think the context here is, I think the attorneys were thinking it may not be possible in every situation to have two ingress and egress points. Largely, there's not a lot of situations that this would ever apply to in Canby, but in context, if there were, let's say it was a housing development, if there were 30 or more units, there would be a requirement for 2 access points anyway. So, I mean, it's a scalable thing in our current code. But I think this, again, is probably one of those code issues that we need to dive into a bit further and address this more specifically around that. But I think the develop probably still works as we refine our code. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Don, I think that's with the wildland interface, for instance, that's very critical in regards to addressing that issue. And I don't know if we can build in something in the code, like you said, the code has to be updated too. But could you then require that particular area to have other fire suppression systems installed, or construction type to reduce that hazard.
And
We're only one point of egress because nationally, they're dealing with this issue and as we speak, the large fires happening in California and making sure that people can get out.
And I think that clearly could be part of like that discussion.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think there's a bit more evaluation that needs to happen to get to that. I mean, I think currently it would be difficult to do much of any developing in an area that had much development without having to be in that situation. But I also think, to your point, Councilor Davis, that there should be maybe some thresholds around what that is, and looking at those resources, like if it's designated as wildland interface where there's like fire hazard rating or whatever the threshold is, we would obviously consider that.
Right. Thank you.
Councilor Waterman.
So you keep referring to like wildland areas. Is that, are you using that synonymous with natural hazard areas? Or other areas of the city that this would still apply to?
And I'm going to defer to Councilor Davis a bit on this. It's maybe a little bit out of my expertise area, but I believe there are maps that give indicators of high fire hazard conditions. I think a lot of the city right now, I mean, I'm guessing as we continue to expand our boundary, that may end up being more of an issue than it is currently, where that may not be as much of an issue because most of those areas are probably not in that interface area. But as we continue to expand outward, there may be higher sensitivity areas.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Well, you're about halfway through your slides.
Okay,
Let it roll.
I'm moving.
You're doing good. You're doing good.
Okay. And that, I think, was the same thing. I was a dupe there. And then the next slide is, this is a replacement, again, from the original ensure key public facilities and facilities serving vulnerable populations are located outside of hazard areas. And the language would be, instead of ensure, would be endeavor to locate key public facilities and facilities serving vulnerable population outside of hazard areas. It's still important, but I think the context here is the ability to guarantee that is something that I think our attorneys felt the language should be changed on that.
That's good.
That's the top one. And then the bottom one is ensure key public facilities and facilities such as water, sewer, police, fire, and hospital infrastructure have backup capabilities during emergency. The replacement would be endeavor to establish backup capabilities during emergencies for key public services and facilities such as water, sewer, police, fire, and hospital infrastructure.
Councilor Waterman.
So for this one, should we not expect to have backups for our key critical infrastructure for emergencies, public services? I mean, it seems like changing from ensure to endeavor is sort of a ticket to get out and have an excuse. And so what's the endeavor, what's the expectation that we should have that? I mean, that's my concern with this one.
Yeah, are we trying to not overpromise, or, I mean?
I think that's the context. And, you know, these are both of these items on the top and the bottom. I'm not really sure if it's significant enough that if there's concerns, we can absolutely leave this in place. This is the one slide that I made a note on that, like, I mean, and I think this gets into, like, if we have this in place, you know, and then we go to update things as implementation, that implementation will be perhaps slightly more specific in the implementation side of things, which will be at the zoning stage, than it would be if it was, or possibly could be. It may be the same, but the context here is that there's a bit more latitude with the comprehensive plan policy. If it's broader, on how it looks like when it gets to the specific language of the code, which is the implementation piece of that. I don't disagree that those are important. I totally agree those are important items. I guess the question is, some of these may be outside of our purview, like are we going to guarantee the hospital, which is not something that we control, that they will, that there will be provided, backup, there's a collaborative here to a degree on public-private interface. I would agree on the public side completely. It seems like that would be our purview.
If anything, then if we don't have control of it, then it might be something that maybe that's taken out of that part if we don't have control of it. But it's also, when you're saying we're talking about looking at the code, we fall back to this as the direction for the code.
It does.
So if the code says, well, you kind of don't have to do it.
We're just going to try.
There's the option to not do it.
Yeah.
So that's my concern.
Well, my question would be, is the concern from BEH, and I'm not asking you to put words in their mouth, I'm just wondering if they express, is this a concern of liability? If we say we're going to insure it and then we don't follow through, we have a liability issue, so they're suggesting Endeavor. Was there some context on why they made that recommendation?
Not on every one of these, but overall, the overarching, it was essentially that, there is this messaging that that as you get in, you want consistency between your code and your comp plan. And so this is a bit of a recipe for what you're supposed to be doing. So for context, this is essentially a wish list of items. If we do not have this in our current code, some of these aren't in our current code, then these are things that we should be moving them forward. And some of the language, I think, might end up influencing when those are done first. And they didn't really talk so much about, not necessarily the liability, but ultimately that it's going to push the city into a direction that may have less flexibility if we have certain language in the comp plan versus not.
Okay.
It's a risk factor, and I can't, they didn't really go into here's my legal analysis of this, but it's a risk factor that they're asking us to consider.
Okay. And I'll remind, I saw it. I was wanting Don to finish. But we also have a second reading on this, so we have time to noodle on this and ask more questions in 2 weeks. So, Councilor Patton.
Yeah, so I guess two things real quick. I'm kind of confused because I was originally told to hold all my questions till the end. So I had some questions on some ones we've already covered, but now.
Yeah, we kind of got off track, so catch up.
I mean, it is what it is, so just be prepared for that at the end. But with as much discussion that was going on with this one, the read that I get from this, and this is based on work we've done with Barry Ellsner and Hammond on the policies and operating guidelines, is the point is to keep things as flexible for the future as possible. And endeavor is a much more hard and fast word than or ensure is a much more hard and fast word than endeavor.
Right.
And I would hate to see future groups say, what the heck were they doing? Because now we are supposed to do this thing that we neither have the money nor the land to do. And so I am fine with the wording that they are suggesting.
Okay. And Councilor Patton, you're right, we did try to do the hold it till the end, but kind of got off because there were some things that were a little more urgent for folks. So do you have something you want to catch up on before we move forward? Do you have a question from the past discussions?
I will revisit it when we get done.
Okay. Just thought I'd give you that opportunity. All right, Don, go ahead.
Okay. Should I continue?
Yes.
Next slide. Okay. So the next one is on economic development, and this is a replacement again. Instead of limit rezoning of employment lands unless similar employment and higher wage jobs can be achieved as part of zone changes, to the replacement would be develop regulations for zone changes that ensure impacts on employment levels and high wage jobs are considered as part of rezoning of employment lands. And this probably is less about the jobs per acre, which I would just want to target that because this is not part of that discussion, because we could go into a discussion on that. But this is about when somebody might come in and say, I want to do a change in my zoning from commercial or industrial to residential, for example? And then what are the parameters that we would end up establishing as part of that, that in the future? And so how hard and fast is that? Is it an assessment of job loss considerations? They both consider that, but the word develop regulations versus limit is, I think, in play here about that, going forward. I think the fine line here is providing flexibility because we cannot predict everything in the future on growth, and there may be some situations where we absolutely want to do that. The other part of this is we have a limited amount of industrial land in the city, and I think even with the urban expansion, that will end up being probably that's kind of it. So I think part of that is just trying to weigh those two out.
Okay.
So we good on that one? So I'll move on to the next one. So this one is support arts and visitation. This is just a hyphen. Instead of saying including heritage tourism and bicycle tourism, we would include heritage hyphen and bicycle tourism, which would include both of those. Very small change. Next one is upzoning of an area J to allow more medium and high density housing, with the replacement being with the replacement being encourage upzoning of parcels at area J to allow more medium and high density housing would be the change. The next one is instead of develop sufficient utility capacity, this is the word change would be support development of utility capacity to serve anticipated growth over the next 20 years. This might be important in terms of like looking at things that we are obviously striving to do, but supporting development of utility capacity, in particular electricity, would be probably a better word choice than develop sufficient utility capacity. That's the recommendation there. Mm-hmm. The next item is identify opportunities to streamline the process and standards for designing and approving, and we removed planned developments and just made them all developments. Identify opportunities to streamline the process and standards for designing and approving developments. The next item is provide incentives to encourage developments to build planned unit developments. We removed that. Instead, we're making that more general. Provide incentives to encourage developers to build a variety of housing types, including incentives to support the development of income-restricted housing. So it's the striking would be of planned unit developments part there. Next one is pursue a variety of amendments to remove regulatory barriers, including reducing minimum lot size, increasing building heights, updating allowed uses in residential zones, and updating design standards. This would be changed to pursue a variety of development code amendments to remove regulatory barriers to develop a variety of housing types, including reducing minimum lot sizes, increasing building heights, updating allowed uses in residential zones, and updating design standards. So just a more tightening of that language. Next one is continue to update, and the change here is removing all references to the wastewater master plan. It's actually the wastewater facilities plan, and that's the change there to thematically just changing that language. The next item is allow for creation of local improvement districts and advanced financing districts as a means of financing needed improvements, and where needed improvements consistent with city code provisions would be the add. The removal would be where supported by local residents, but when you look at the city code, there's public hearings required and extensive public outreach required for local improvement districts and advanced financing districts. So it's not that the public would not be involved with that, but that language change is suggested by our attorneys. The next one is promote. this is going to be changed from promote comprehensive plan land use designations to promote application of zone designations, because that's the appropriate language. This is a mistake here. So promote application of zone designations based on access to transportation, access to and capacity of infrastructure, site size, development constraints, and other relevant criteria. So it's to focus on zoning because that's the implementation. Next one is promote creative solutions to electrical. It would be going from promote creative solutions to current electrical transmission challenges by supporting battery energy storage systems for industrial use. To promote industrial development, the change would be to promote creative solutions, which is on the right. Promote creative solutions to current electrical transmission challenges by supporting battery energy storage system for industrial use or other strategies to promote industrial development. Okay. Next one is, and I'm not going to necessarily read the entire thing on the top of this, but just the gist of this is we went through an infinite list of items here this is having to do with like items that would have to be addressed for annexation, which had a multiple list of items, and that was intended to be changed and boiled down to development code regulations relating to annexation should ensure evaluation of the ability to provide adequate urban services to property proposed to be annexed, instead of listing them out in terms of sanitary, sewer, power, multiple roads, police, fire, school facilities. It would be all encapsulated into a much more consolidated description there on the bottom.
Okay.
The last, I think this is the last one. This is Urban Renewal Agency, and the key change here, although not shown in strikeout, would be to remove that is located in the city's downtown core, and this is on towards the bottom of the, I'll read this, what it would be without that, but it talks about Urban Renewal Agency as a separate, sorry, let me start with that. An urban renewal agency operates within the city. The urban renewal agency's purpose is to undertake economic development activities in a defined geographic area called the urban renewal area, and the striking would be that is located in the downtown core, because if it does get reestablished, it could be somewhere else. The Urban Renewal Agency undertakes economic development activities in accordance with the approved urban renewal plan, which is consistent with the comprehensive plan. So that is the very last one, and I'm glad to go back through these again for additional review. I know Councilor Padden, I think, may have had some comments.
Yeah, we'll start with Councilor Padden because I know he was building a list. So Councilor, do you want to address your comments, concerns, and questions?
Yes, thank you. So I guess we'll start, because we're at the end, I'll start at the end and I'll work up. There's only 3, so don't freak out. When it comes to, we just talked about number 50 on page 410, or wait, no, page 407, about the batteries for industrial. To me, it would seem to make sense to generalize that even further by removing industrial. So that way, even if the time comes where we use battery storage for both commercial and residential, that is encouraged as well. Does that make sense, or is that going too far?
I'll respond. It sounds like that was a broad question here. I think the key note, I like where you're going on this. I think that the specifics of industrial are because that's where the limitation is right now, and it's large loads, and the rest of the loads that are natural growth are not a challenge. But
well, you say that now,
okay.
But we know that a certain number of houses equals a megawatt of power. Mm-hmm. And at some point in time, and this might be because I am not a trusting person, I fear the day will come when they will say, oh, by the way, we can't add any more houses because you've hit certain megawatts of power with the number of houses you brought up. So that's why it piqued my curiosity as to whether it would maybe make sense to diversify this even further so that we aren't pigeonholing ourselves into just industrial for power storage.
And I would be totally open to that suggestion and whatever council's direction is on that.
Any comments from Counselor?
I would
Council
support
on
that
his-
change.
You would support that
I would
change?
support that change.
Counselor
I
Waterman?
would as well.
We could just strike
Okay.
industrial and say to promote development.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay.
I think that provides a little more opportunity for the future with this. Again, to make things a little more general. So if something comes up where there's an opportunity to, get a grant or something like that for battery storage for residential instead of commercial, that now paves the way to make that a little easier when it comes to all these plans and stuff.
Good point.
The next one I have is number 23 on page 401. Right there. What I wrote down is if we wanted to encourage folks, okay, yeah, so this is about the septic tanks and stuff. We have a certain, we talk about this where we have islands of county property that are squarely within the city and have been for many years. And based on what I remember from planning commission and stuff, if that person was to choose to annex into the city, and not necessarily for development, but just to become part of the city, they would have to pay certain fees regarding sewer hookup and water hookup and electric hookup and those sort of things. Is there a way for us to incentivize or put a carrot out there to those folks to say, look, if you choose to annex into the city, because you're currently in the city, you're using all of the city's infrastructure like roads and stuff, but you're not paying any taxes to the city. If you choose to annex into the city, we will waive or give you a discount or whatever on some of those fees to try and entice them to make that move and lessen that blow. Is that a possibility or is that unheard of?
Well, Counselor, if I understand your question right, this is Randy. It allows, in the suggestion, the sewers, it allows them to remain in use on septic. So there's flexibility there, which not sure I entirely agree with, but I'm very flexible as your staff on considering.
Well, and that's what I'm saying is if you are coming into the city,
Yeah,
you should not have a septic tank.
right, okay.
Full stop. Once you are, because that can create other problems. I really like, we have situations where people who are on the outskirts of town have had problems with their septic systems failing, and they have gotten an exception to be able to connect into the system or water, for instance, because their wells have failed and those sort of things. But if they are in the city and they choose to annex in, then it should follow what we are currently doing, and they should have to connect to the sewer system. Mm-hmm. They should not be then on a septic system.
Agreed.
Because now they are in the city, but they're not paying for that service when they are in the city, if that makes sense.
It does. So can you restate the part about fees that you said we might be able to relax and to encourage voluntary annexation?
That's what I'm saying. Like if we are telling them, look, if you are annexing into the city, mm-hmm. you absolutely must connect to the sewer system. Mm-hmm. You cannot use your septic tank even if it's working properly or not. And in doing so, we will review the application, and then there is an incentive like a reduced hookup fee, or we'll have a period of time where it's like if you choose to annex into the city, we will waive the fee for those hookups in an effort to encourage and lessen the blow on the landowner for needing to connect to the system.
You can also phase in the taxes over a course of 5 years per state law to soften the blow too.
Yeah. Is that the end of your list, Counselor?
No, but I mean, are we whacking septic tanks, or what is the outcome of my question?
Randy?
You want me to go?
Yeah, and if you have something to say
I
to
will
Pat.
push back on that with our esteemed law firm, and so we can offline this, because the second reading isn't for a while. So we'll take that back and see if we can tighten it up.
That's what I was going to
Is that
recommend.
okay?
Yep.
Okay, so does that suffice for you for now, Counselor? They're going to come back with a better answer for the second reading?
Perfect. And
Okay.
then I think the mayor had a question, and then I'll move on to my next one.
Okay, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, it's just to kind of springboard off of this conversation, because I think there, and maybe I'm hearing this or misinterpreting this, Councilor Patton, but it seems like to me that what we've got here is language on what to do with either current or failing septic, and then a separate policy piece on if, for the council to decide if we should create some sort of incentive to encourage those that have septic to link into the city's water lines, or, you know, just the water system. So I think, you know, is it more about develop strategies to, where practical and appropriate, allow septic systems to connect, let's see, allow functional septic systems within the city limits to connect to the city sewage system? Like, because that's what I'm trying to, I don't want to, I just want to make sure we're not trying to put too much into this, because some of it sounds like it's a comp plan piece, but then there's a separate conversation outside of that the council should have about a strategy to encourage getting off septic and joining the city system.
I push back on that because the way.
That's fine. That's what I'm trying to understand it.
What bothers me about this is that this provides a loophole so that if someone goes through this process, they can say, well, it says right here that even if we create regulations that say you have to connect and here's the incentives to do so, we have allowed a loophole to say, them to come back and say, well, that's all well and good, but you say right here that if my septic system is okay, then I can keep it and I don't have to connect to the city. That's the problem. I would like to see this loophole closed, because the last thing I want is for us to go through this whole process and put the city on the track for the next 20 years, and then 20 years later have that group sit around the table and say, why the heck did they do this? Because now we have these landowners that are dying on the stake with their septic tank and causing other problems within the city because of leach fields and all that other stuff. And the reason this gets my hackles up is because the community I grew up in, the reason they had a water system was because the density of the homes were so much that the septic tanks were poisoning the water. And so decades ago, a water system was put in to mitigate that. But yet all the houses are still on a septic tank because there is no municipal sewer. And it's created many problems as far as river pollution, which we're surrounded by rivers, and all that other stuff. And so for me, closing up this loophole so that we are getting rid of septic tanks in the city limits, like in general, is what I would like to see.
No, and I'm totally can get behind that, closing the loophole here that you're talking about. And I guess what I'm trying to delineate is that we're talking about closing the loophole, yes, for sure. And that's the language that should be here in this suggestion, but also then separate from what's here in the
Yes, then we create the regulations for how to make that easier. Exactly, yes, that's what I was, it was a two-part thing that I was throwing out there essentially.
Okay, that's what I just wanted to break that down to say, yes, close the loophole on the septic piece, because we don't want this like, well, if it's in good shape, you're okay to keep it. No, we want to get out of it as a city in general, but then the separate policy thing for the council at another point is to decide how behind it, or how do we want to get that achieved?
Correct.
That's what I wanted to break down. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Counselor Davis.
Thank you. In order to move this along, I like our recommendation to kick it back to the attorney and bring a recommendation back in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yes. And the last one I have is on that same page. It's actually one up. It's the number 22 about, do we have any of these sites? Do we know if we have any of these sites in the city? Or in the area that we are planning to annex into the city?
We have Goal 5 information, but it's really focused on historic and not prehistoric. There aren't any, there's none that I know of based on the inventory that's been done. But this is where the new language is going for the state with Goal 5.
Okay.
So we're going to be required to do this no matter what. And I think Oregon may be one of the states that actually does not already have this in place. It's not unusual for tribes to have input on land use reviews for high value or high priority areas that are culturally significant. But I don't know of any that are in our inventory that show that in the urban growth boundary expansion. The main thing, there are some historic, but I don't know of any prehistoric, which is culture, the Native American cultural.
So, so I guess the next thing that leads me to question is, if this language is for the reason that I think it is, to make sure that we protect those lands and that we have oversight over them by the indigenous people that it impacts, a part of me says maybe we should put a concerted effort into identifying if and where those things are at, so that we know and we are prepared in case something happens, so that after the fact, if someone has developed a piece of property, then all of a sudden it's like, well, what did you do? You've destroyed this culturally sensitive area, and now we want to sue you? Or is it one of those things that the more preventative side of me wants to go that route, but then also sometimes some people prescribe to the philosophy that it's best to not know what's out there because it only creates more trouble.
And
so
I think
what are people's thoughts on this?
We've actually met with the Confederated Tribe of Grand Ronde to talk with them and our Historic Landmarks Commission folks. There's a representative there, and I think they're not aware of things in this. I mean, I think there's a conversation piece around that, and I think some of this is not. There is the potential always for sites to be found that are not already documented. That exists everywhere. How likely is that to happen? I don't think it's super likely in Canby or in the expansion boundary area, but I think part of that is maintaining those connectional points with the tribes as we continue our urban growth boundary expansion process. So that
okay, I guess. Yeah, and I guess to me, my thought is it's best to put more of a concerted effort into the research and to the possible identification of those sites. So if something does happen later on down the road, it shows that we were working towards it, and it might have actually been more of an accident when it comes time for lawsuits to fly around, is kind of what piqued my interest on this one.
Yep, no.
And with that, that is all I have.
Okay. Randy, you had a comment about that?
Just really quickly, I appreciate the comment, Counselor, and I think speaking on behalf of my leadership team and on all major projects that we engage in, we are required to do this proactively on the front end as well, Counselor. So, for example, Walnut, if I'm not mistaken, we were required before we broke ground to do an archaeological study, which it costs significant resources, but worth it. And so that's how I would answer that question. We could go for a grant, do a blanket, but just rest assured that on any of our major projects, we're required to do it on the front end anyway. Is that?
Councilor Waterman?
Yes, mine's on the back, on the previous thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know. We have to- But he'd already gone forward. I was like, okay, so we'll come back to you.
You're thinking about this. So on the previous one, we talked, there's two parts to this. It seems like we only talked about the first part, about somebody wanting to annex in. The second part basically says they don't want to annex in, but their system is failing, but they want to connect to the city without annexing in.
Thank you, Councilor Waterman. I appreciate that comment because that's what I was thinking about as well.
Yeah, so we probably would want to address that before we send it back to.
Okay.
And so I think we can still come back with language for you all at the June 3rd, but the context is completely different. There aren't very many. I think it's an unusual situation. It's not zero, because since I've been here a little over 5 years, there has been one that someone had a septic system. So it's not, it does come up. Most of the time they do want to have sewer in their situation. Most of the time it does fail, but it does speak to the fact that we have some in the city now. I don't know what the numbers are of those because I'm not sure if there's been an inventory. Public Works may have that, but I do think that's completely different than the annexation piece, which I think we can make a bright line on annexation, but it doesn't solve, which I think was really the intent of what Councilor Waterman's, to your point, that was more the intent than annexation. And to that annexation point, I would say every one of them that has been annexed has had an agreement of some sort to, every one of them that has had sewer has had to have an agreement with the city and gone through council, and that's part of that is the expectation they're going to connect, that the sewer they're going to annex within 2 years of the sewer. So that has gone probably at least a handful of times since I've been here to council, and we've memorialized it even more specifically. The last one was behind Lampros for a kind of a community service facility, and they were on septic, and we actually had a contract that they signed from our attorneys that said that they would come in 2 years, they would annex their property. So I think that might largely kind of be solved, but I think I want to respect Councilor Padden's comments because I do think those are important, that we should be requiring that, but I think it is more of an automatic than it may appear.
If we require the other one, that way, it seems like why would it be any different if they were annexing whether they have a good sewer septic or not?
All right. So we'll have some more answers on those things.
Yeah, so this might have two sections to it, and we'll come back with that on that.
Okay.
Other comments that you have? Thank you for your input. Really appreciate it. Yeah. And so I'd be, I think we're looking for you all to recommend to that this we revise and bring this back to you in final form and for final adoption on June 3rd, and that would include the the entire comp plan with the changes and the maps, the comp plan maps that you all have seen on April 10th. So if I could get a motion of some sort.
We need to do a public hearing first.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
So once that's done, sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Thank you, Don.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So the matter presently before the hearing body requires a public hearing. All interested persons in attendance shall be heard on this matter. This public hearing was noticed, and those who wish to speak were instructed to contact the city recorder. We did not receive any requests to speak. Those people who are interested in testifying as either proponents or opponents, please indicate your desire to speak by raising your virtual hand at this time or handing a card to our city recorder. I do have one card. Are there any more coming forward? Do we have anyone online? Okay.
For longer presentations, proponents and opponents may buy time from one another. In doing so, those either in favor or opposed may allocate their time to a spokesperson who will represent the entire group. All questions must be directed through the council president. All evidence to be considered must be submitted to the hearing body for public access. All written testimony received both for and against shall be summarized by staff and presented briefly to the hearing body during the staff report. The public hearing will be conducted as follows. We heard the staff report provided by Don Hardy. We will go into a public hearing for testimony. Proponents will have no more than 3 minutes, opponents no more than 3 minutes. We will close the public hearing. There'll be questions, if any, by the hearing body, discussion by the hearing body. A decision will be made by the hearing body at the close of the hearing, or the matter will be continued to a date certain in the future. This will be the only notice of that date you will receive. Does anyone have any questions about the procedure of the hearing? Seeing none, I will open the public hearing. And we will start with proponents, since that's the card, it says pro. We will call up Ethan Manuel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council President Hensley, councilors. I'm back. So my name's Ethan Manuel, a long-term resident of the community here in Canby, and a member of the Public Advisory Committee that's been working on some of this sort of stuff, this TSP and others. And the main reason I came was we got kind of a unique situation here where we had a first reading, we had some changes, now we're having another first reading. I just didn't want to presume that my support comments from the previous one would carry forward, so I thought I would just come in and make sure I was on the record again as supporting this. I think it's, you know, from a staff perspective, a consultant perspective, Planning Commission, City Council, everybody's been working hard on this, including the community as a whole. A lot of work's gone into it, so I think it's important that people come forth and voice their support if that's the case. So I also would just reiterate that since we're kind of phasing into now the urban growth boundary expansion, we're going to come back around to the comprehensive plan update again for that land, the TSP for that land. So I think what you're doing here sets a very good foundation for that work that's going to be coming over the next few years. Rather than going back to stuff that's referencing the 80s, we now have a very fresh and robust comprehensive plan update in place. So I'm just here as a voice of the community to say I think we're doing a good job as a whole, and appreciate if you would approve it. That's my.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Manuel, thank you so much. Anyone else before we close the public hearing? There was a proponent and no opponents? Closing the public hearing. Any further questions from the hearing body? Saying none. Do we have anything to discuss before we take a motion? I'll take a motion.
Okay, I will. I move to direct staff to revise the draft Canby comprehensive plan based on the changes presented by staff and bring ordinance number 1670 for a second reading on June 3rd, 2026.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilor Waterman and seconded by Councilor Davis to direct staff to revise the draft comprehensive plan based on the changes presented by staff and bring ordinance 1670 for a second reading on June 3rd, 2026. All those in favor? Discussion. Councilor Patton.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate this. I know we've said it often, and I just want to say it again. I am very proud with this group and city staff and our community who have put so much time and effort into this process and this project. It has fundamental bearing on the city for future generations, and the effort that people have put in. Thank you again. I know it's been a lot of work and a lot of meetings and a lot of frustration, but this will pay huge dividends in the future. So I just want to say again how much I appreciate everybody and how excited I am that we're one step closer to getting this over the threshold.
Yes, indeed. I agree. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 4-0. Okay. Moving into other business, there's an announcement that the filing period for mayor and council positions will open on June 3rd, 2026. Positions to be voted upon on November 3rd, 2026 for the general election are as follows, and there was a typo in the original posting, so I'll correct that. Mayor at large position, a 2-year term, and councilors, there are 3 positions at large for 4-year term. Candidate filing forms and instructions will be available from the city recorder and will be posted on the website when it's available. We'll move into mayor's business. He's in Cyber World tonight, but Mr. Mayor, what do you have to share?
Thank you, Council President. A couple of things. I just wanted to give a huge shout out and congratulations to the now named Together Canby. The Canby Center has changed their name, and they did a grand reopening and ribbon cutting for their new building. It's a tremendous addition to the city of Canby. I mean, as we have grown, the needs and the functions of now Together Canby has been growing immensely. And so this new building continues the food swap. It has increased freezer, refrigeration, and food storage. It has more classrooms. This gem for our community has helped thousands of people. And I know now as it has built with a larger capacity to withstand the growth of our city will come in the aid of helping tens of thousands of people in the future. So my congratulations to Ray Keene, his team, and the board of directors there on their grand opening. We've talked about it a couple of times tonight, but Walnut Street is moving along. Canby Excavating has been working very diligently to make this happen. Trees are cleared. There's a roadway laid out. So lots of progress is being made on that connection to 99E. The UGB Expansion Technical Committee had its very first meeting last week. There's obviously going to be more conversation to come on this, but definitely a conversation about housing, land coming into the city and what that could look like from economic development and different housing pieces. So I think we're going to be hearing more on that here at the council in the next week or two. The city has had their first budget meeting. We've got that out and under our belt. The second meeting is tomorrow night. It starts, I think, at 6 p.m. There in council chambers. And then our third meeting will be on May 28th, also starting at 6 p.m. So if you're interested in what's going on with the next year's budget, please come down and have a listen. For interim city manager, Mr. Ely. So summer is around the corner. And with that means we have increased river use and many desiring to access the river, specifically at Community Park. And I know a couple of years ago, we had started a project there, or some community members had started a project with making life jackets available at that park for river use. One, is that program still underway? And two, will we be able to outfit that park with life jackets for those that may need them while they're using the river?
Mr. Mayor, I do not have the answer. I don't know if Councilor Davis is liaison to parks. You do?
I believe that life jackets were donated, and there's some at Public Works as well. But I do know that people have donated life jackets. Last time I was down there, there were some life jackets, and we encourage people to make sure they put them back after the use.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Davis. I appreciate that. And I would even say we'll gladly accept gently loved life jackets as well. Coming up on Memorial Day, there will be a Memorial Day ceremony starting at 11 o'clock at Zion Memorial Park Cemetery. If you're available and would like to come down and pay your respects to our servicemen and women that have passed, please come down and join us for that. I want to say thank you to staff and to the county again regarding South Ivy transfer. I think that's just a big win for the city in a major way. And then I also wanted to just chime in and say thank you to the council for supporting the signing of the MOU with the Vietnamese Providence. I think some might think that just because we only have one business in Canby, you know, why does this make it a big deal? It's bigger than Canby. You know, we do have Dragonberry, and the Nguyen family has done a great job with that company and growing it and choosing Canby as its home. But I think it's a far more greater impact and larger reach with its stretching throughout the Northwest and what it's been able to bring to that part of the world, Vietnam and just Southeast Asia in general. We have actually a number of agricultural farms here in the area that they've been able to introduce, they being Dragonberry, have been able to introduce things like pumpkin seeds that are grown here in Clackamas County to that part of the world, which they have not had before. So I appreciate the council for supporting the signature of that, and we will have their delegation here on May 26th. There'll be a ceremony here at, well, there, because I'm not there, but at City Hall, starting at 9 o'clock. So if you're available and can be there, that would be great to have as many of us there as possible. That concludes my comments for the evening.
Okay, Councilor Waterman, did you have a question to the mayor for his comments?
No, I was just going to follow up. I think down at the Canby Park, or the community park, I think they updated the sign where the life jackets was afar with the new information and updated information there as well for safety.
Okay. And did I hear correctly, we do accept donations from folks who want to donate gently used?
Sounds like it.
Okay.
We'll check tomorrow.
Okay.
Or
Yeah.
I'll send an email to everybody.
I'm still purging my garage. I might be able to help.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's been a while, but I believe too that the police department was receiving some.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm hearing from the chief now that the answer is yes, so
Okay,
I'll
community.
follow up.
If you're cleaning out your garage and you find a nice life jacket you're not going to use, we have a use for it. Okay, real quick, I also attended the Together Canby ribbon cutting, and reiterate Mr. Mayor's comments. What a blessing to have this in our town, and if you get a chance to tour it, it's expanded. They have expanded services, expanded programs. It's bigger kitchen, so they have more dining area. They got the food the clothes closet, the food pantry, everything. It's what a wonderful program. So very happy to have it there in town and to service our area. And they did say it's a flagship, this expansion. They part of the rebranding was so that they could have other communities look to us for what they could possibly do in their communities. So that was really cool. I also attended with Administrator Ely. We went to the Canby Adult Center to walk through their new facility. Again, what a great project that's going to be. They walked us through the expanded kitchen and dining. They have a multi-purpose room for exercise classes and other things, and that's going to be a great space for I'll let Councilor Davis expand on that, but I just wanted to say how impressed I was with that walkthrough. That was good to go to. Traffic Safety Commission, I do want to announce that we did have a resignation, so we do have an opening on that board. So if anyone's interested, please apply. You can get with Teresa or Maya, or just go to the website and apply for that so we can fill our boat again. And I want to thank Gary Bryant for his services. He was a great member, and he's still with us, but he just is doing other things now. So I wanted to thank him for his service on the Traffic Safety Commission. Conversations at that level still around U-turns at Redwood and 99. Y'all just stop it. But they're looking at enforcement possibilities there. And also people are still speeding around the triangle there at the fairgrounds. So we're going to work on
on some solutions hopefully for that area as well. Canby School District, the jury's still out, but the levy isn't doing well so far, so pray accordingly to your desires on that. But I do want to give a shout out to the choir, once again, state champions. So congratulations to those kiddos and to Mr. Gingrich. They have a great program over there, and it's always entertaining to watch them. So if you get a chance to watch our choir, go do it. And finally, Canby Fire, I did meet with the chair of the board, and he was happy to report that when urban renewal funds come their way, they're looking to hire 3, maybe 4 new firefighters. And with the bond, they have an apparatus fund started, and they're putting towards that each year. So now they can be prepared to buy a new apparatus when they need it. The operating levy will come around here again in a couple years probably, but that's just for operations. And he wanted it known that it's minimal staff, they run really lean, so most of those dollars go to operating the firefighters and the apparatus and that kind of thing. And a lot of this started under the tenure of Chief Davis, so congratulations for getting that going. Matt Dale has picked up the baton and is running with it, but a lot of this did start under the direction of Chief Davis. So Fire District is doing well. And just to tag on to Mr. Mayor's announcement of the Memorial Day ceremony at Zion Park, after you come to that, please come down to the Legion at 12:30. They'll have a wonderful chicken dinner to follow that ceremony. So go to the Legion for chicken dinner after the Memorial Day. And Councilor Davis, what do you have for us?
Thank you. Well, fresh off the Park and Rec meeting last night, we spent some time talking about Artisan Park, which is the little park behind Fred Meyer's. Hats off to the Public Works staff. They've been doing a great job in helping clear limbs and get that cleaned up so that the committee can get in there. We're going to start doing, or the committee's going to start doing some 1-hour cleanups. First one's slated for June the 3rd for 1 hour, and we're looking at possibly putting in some more plants and things like that into the park. But we're going to do that just in like hour or two increments after we deal with the agreements that we have to do and sign liability agreements and those. Also, Public Works, Spencer presented a sign by the request of the committee that would be installed in indications as far as like how long is the trail. There's some very nice signs Public Works has come up with. How long is the trail? Where are you located here? How much further it is to this point? Where facilities are, where the end of the loop is, and where the start of it is, and distances off the trail to certain areas too, like the fairgrounds and things like that. But very nice signs that Spencer's group has designed that the committee really liked. So good work by Spencer and his group. We talked about the naming of the new park. That has been moved so that everybody knows too that they're just waiting on some parts to come in for the splash pad. And so that's not going to really happen until sometime mid-June. And then we'll look at a ribbon cutting up there, after the splash pad has been put in. Spencer indicated too that doesn't necessarily mean fence can't be taken down and people can start using the park prior to the ribbon cutting. But if you haven't been up to that park, it's very nice. They've been doing a fantastic job on that. But along with that came our naming of the park. And Spencer presented the recommendations that have been received so far for the park. And there's 6 different names, and none of them really struck an accord with any of the committee members as far as the names go. So the committee is going to take this back, look at these names, and possibly make some other recommendations for names for the park. Again, that would be coming from the committee and to the city council, and the city council would have an opportunity to have input to that as well. Maple Street Park, we do have a rendition that was prepared for Maple Street Park, and we have money in this year's budget to do some things at Maple Street Park, but before that, we hired a firm. What's that firm, Spencer?
HHPR.
Okay, and anyway, they did a rendition of including a park, increasing the parking area, increasing a bathroom facility. I know this last weekend they had a big baseball tournament there, and they had one bathroom working. And Spencer's hard at work at trying to get that other one back in service, but then softball's paid for 2 small porta potties in the parking lot as well. Not the best, but anyway, so bathroom facilities, since we put in that turf, that park is getting used either by the splash pad, the pickleball courts, and now the baseball fields and softball fields. So priorities around the increased parking in that area, as well as increasing the restrooms, fixing up the basketball, reconstruction of the basketball hoop area, and then the track around the fence, the fields, fixing that up, eliminating some tree roots and resurfacing that a little bit. So be patient with us. I appreciate the city administrator for getting this map prepared so that we can have a clear direction on what we're going to do, rather than just saying, hey, we're going to do some parking. Well, what does that look like, and what's the priority around those? So be patient. This seems to be one of our premier parks as far as usage goes. And, be patient. The committee is moving forward with that, and I appreciate the interim city administrator and Spencer and his group for what they're doing up there as well. They're doing a great job. The Adult Center, yes, they've got a lot of things happening at the Adult Center. They had the pre-construction with R&H on a visit to the building. There's a few things that they ran into that they have to resolve, such as asbestos was found in a couple places, and a ventilation shaft, and what to do with that ventilation shaft as they move forward. Nothing major so far in regards to the reconstruction. They hope to start groundbreaking on June 15th for the actual remodel of that facility. Direct Link, hats off to Direct Link, the $25,000 in-kind support for the work that they're going to do with the wiring up at the Adult Center as well. They had an open house and encouraged people on May 14th, which was well attended, so that they can look at potential major donors and prospects for donations to help with the remodel at the church. Other news, they do have a Father's Day lunch happening on June 18th, the golden anniversary, as well on June 24th for those celebrating their golden anniversary at the Adult Center. Kathy is doing a fantastic job up there. A lot of activities happening in there, really busting at the seams. They did bring on new staff. Exercise instructor is being hired, as well as 3 new drivers for the buses for transportation at the Adult Center. That's pretty much it.
Councilor Waterman.
Bike and Ped did not meet this month. There is still one open position for the Bike and Ped, so if anybody is interested in joining that, please contact the city and look into that. Just met with the Library Advisory Board. Some of the good news is the library is getting used a lot. Everything is up. Visitors, room reservations, checkouts, physical checkouts, reference questions. A lot of people are using the library. Some things that aren't up are items added to the collections and the number of programs. So while it's getting used more and more, we're going down in what we're offering. And that comes to tomorrow when we start talking about budget. So it'll be a good conversation tomorrow. And that's all I have.
Okay. Counselor Patton?
Thank you very much. So, real quick, because of my travel, I haven't been able to go to some of the meetings. But I will say I'm looking very forward to June 14th from noon to 4 for Pride in the Park. This will be my 4th year attending it, I think. It's always a great event. Lots of folks. It gets bigger every year, and I'm looking forward to it being even bigger this year. So if you get a chance to come out, I strongly encourage you to check it out. Thank you very much for the updates on the Memorial Day ceremony. This will be the first Memorial Day in many years that I will actually be home, so I'm looking forward to heading over to the cemetery and participating in that. So thank you very much for that. And to piggyback on the whole Canby Adult Center thing, the church will be moving. It's as part of this whole process, the church will have its last service there this coming Sunday, and then we will be moving all of the furniture related to the church out on Saturday the 30th to prepare for the construction there. So it's an exciting time for that building and an exciting time for the adult center. And I look forward to seeing how it all comes together in the end. So that's it for my updates for this meeting.
Okay. Anything else for the good of the order? Counselor Davis.
I'm sorry, too. Up at the Adult Center, hats off to the Rotary Club of Canby. We were up there last week doing some prep work. One of the president's project, Jim Hunsaker's project, is to redo the picnic area up at the church, and we pressure washed that. And this Saturday, their Rotary Club is going to be up there actually painting that. And then we're going to do some other sprucing up around that particular area because we have some extra money in the budget to do that as well.
Okay. Thank you for that. All right, City Administrator business and staff reports. Randy.
Thank you, Council President. We have 10 minutes, so let me know if you want me to hit on something in particular. But I have a few high-level updates I can pass along. First, thanks to Jamie and the team for putting out the May 30th Saturday Walnut Street Extension groundbreaking event, which is going to be cross-marketed with the chamber and some other folks. So
That's May 30th?
May 30, 11 a.m., correct? I see that it's out already on social. Another item, I don't know if it's out yet, from Jamie is the public forum to meet with the finalists for police chief next week, May 27th.
Yes, 6 p.m.
Up at the Police Department Community Center, 6 p.m. There'll be opportunity to interact with the finalists. We are going to notice a potential quorum because we expect most of you will be there as well. And the community can ask questions, and it'll be facilitated. We had 7 interviewed today in here. It was a busy day at City Hall, but shout out to HR department. They did a good job organizing the cadence of getting candidates to 2 different panels today, so.
Good.
Quick update here, if you could hand those out, Counselor, sorry. And you all online have copies of the Happy Valley agenda packet where they pass their e-bike regulations, and they go by emergency clause, so they go into effect June 1st. Currently, Chief Tro and team are reviewing this document, which was also written in cooperation and with Barry Elsner. But I pass along the staff report for your viewing pleasure and also the language of the ordinance. top line, I think the one takeaway, I don't know what we're going to do, but they took out the seizure and forfeiture language in their enforcement. And they just put in a lot of education and different things that cover scooters, hoverboards, similar devices, rider behavior. They have a safety school. So a lot of things that we will look into before we bring this to you and the community. They're going into middle schools, they're doing education, so there's a whole wraparound services with this implementation that we'll want to work with you on as well. We have a bubble list tomorrow night so just setting the table for budget, as has been mentioned earlier. We meet tomorrow night, 6 p.m. here. Many of the people that are presenting are here tonight with us. Libraries up, economic development, cemetery, transit. We're closing out the general fund tomorrow and then getting into the special funds, special revenue funds, and then the sewer, combined sewer. So busy night, but you did ask me to prepare and the team to prepare what you've traditionally called the bubble list based on your questions from the budget committee. I'll pass this out tomorrow. Wanted to give you an early peek at where we're at with this in terms of anything that the budget committee might want to consider adding back into the budget or adding to the budget. And I'm sure more will come up tomorrow as we meet as well. So this is just a working list. It's on a shared drive, so we'll continue to update it and then be prepared for that conversation tomorrow night at budget, which again starts at 6. Up at the top, you'll just see that 1% equals about, and I worked pretty hard with our finance director to come to this number, 1% in the general fund operating reserve equals about 141,000. So your benchmark is 20%, and right now, let's say we're 5% over that, then you just do 5 times 141, and that's how much money you could draw down and put into other programs or projects. And we'll have a better update for you tomorrow night on that as we move along in the budget.
Okay.
All right. So
This is helpful, thank you.
yeah. So thanks to the staff. Everybody jumped in and updated their sections based on the feedback we got from you all last week.
Yeah, if you had more money,
Yeah.
what would you do with it question?
Yeah,
Yeah, this is great, because I asked for the financial impact and what benefit we would see.
and you wanted it
so.
early.
Randy, could you make sure this gets sent out to the mayor and to Patton?
I think they have it.
Yeah, he's
but
nodding.
Okay.
I will also, what I'll make sure I do, sir, is get it to the budget committee before the meeting as well.
Well, Kim's here.
Yeah, we got a couple folks in the audience, a few. Canby Swim Center, this is a topic for tomorrow. They're up for tomorrow. We're in the middle of bidding or starting to bid that project remodel. Price per square foot is pretty intense. So budget, we'll need your budget eyes on that to make a policy decision I would call it a go, no go, depending on how expensive this is. The issue is, and I choose my words carefully, as Councilor Padden has brought up, I've heard, as some of you, what are we technically allowed to use swim levy money for? It's an operational levy. And so we've been working with Barry Elsner as your staff, because if we pivoted away from doing a project, we can't necessarily use all of that money that we've collected over the past 4 or 5, 10 years to buy property or build a new swim center, right? You tracking? So that's kind of a bummer news that we got back from the attorneys. So I'll have to factor that in the decision of the cost per square foot to do new restrooms in a mechanical room, and what to do with the current money versus how we will budget accordingly going forward for any kind of new capital swim center for Canby, based on allowable uses. That's all.
Good.
Not insurmountable. Excited for the charter review meeting that's coming up. I'm just going to pass out more paper, but just for the 3 of you that are here and the two counselors that are on the screen. This is charter review feedback from Canby Utility on Chapter 10. And I know we have a meeting coming up. It's on your look ahead. Yes.
Yeah.
Maya just told me, and Teresa, that is coming up June 18th. That's Council President Hensley, Padden, and Stearns for charter review. And then council policies is next week, May 27th in the morning. Councilor Padden, Hensley, and Davis. Okay. So a couple big council working groups are meeting. But anyway, this is their first shot. Barry Elsner's their legal firm as well. The Canby Utility Board met, said they're comfortable with Barry Elsner as well as us having Barry Elsner. So that's new information passing along tonight. We'll have to come back to you, make sure you're comfortable, but that came out last week at the Canby Utility Board meeting. So we have the same legal counsel help guide us into November, right, on this potential charter change so that they can go out and bond as Canby Utility for this water project someday. Full stop.
Okay.
I would hope that the charter committee will deal with the city administrator position as well.
We've already, yeah.
Okay.
We kind of just got hung up on Chapter 10. We already addressed those things. We got hung up on Chapter 10, then we'll move on, and then everything will come to all of y'all.
Because that has to be a priority based on the submittals that have to happen for November.
Yeah, that's why we're meeting in June, because that stuff has to get going by July. So,
Okay.
Yeah, we're on a shot clock. Thank you for that, yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Quick question, Randy, back to the e-bikes. When will we see that in front of council? Because that's an issue. That's a real issue.
I appreciate the question, Counselor. Let me consult with the chief who's reviewing. I would say we meet June. I will try not to put him on the spot, but I could try and get it on the June 3rd council agenda. But I also promised the Bike and Ped Committee that I would share it with them as well. Give them a look at the language as well. When they meet second week in June? Yeah, second week in June.
So maybe then the second meeting up for us in June then?
Yep. Then you have June 10th, which hasn't been scheduled yet. We could do a whole e-bike work session if you want to, and we could help you with the visitors for that. And then June 17th is your budget meeting, which is a pretty big agenda. And then we're into July, 1st of July.
Okay.
And we're going to do fireworks in there somewhere too.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we got a busy June.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
Well, and again, every meeting I'll ask you about our joint meeting with the Canby School Board.
I was with Jennifer today, all day. She sacrificed her day to be part of the chief panel, the community panel, and I think they're ready to meet. So I will bring a firm date forward for I haven't talked to the mayor recently, but I know it's top of his list as well. He talked with the school board chair a couple weeks back about doing the same thing. So why don't I bring you some dates via email and we can lock something in now that the levy's over.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Second is that all?
That's it.
Okay, second opportunity for citizen input, public comment. I saw you wave over there. Oh, you were just saying hi, you didn't want to get up here and pontificate? All right, very good. Action review.
You've approved the consent agenda. You've adopted ordinances 1671 and 1672. You've approved ordinances 1670 and 1673 to a second reading on June 3rd, and you adopted resolutions 1455 and 1456.
All right, we got some stuff done tonight. Very good. I'll take a motion to adjourn. All right, it's been moved by Councilor Davis and seconded by Councilor Waterman. It's not a debatable motion. All those in favor? Good night, Canby.